What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. I hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. So, Mr. Doug Gottlieb, analyst, I would say, what is he, radio host? He accuses Stephen A. Smith of being a race baiter for saying that black coaches had a problem with LeBron James doing a podcast with JJ Redick during the time that the Lakers' former head coach Darvin Ham was on the hot seat, right? Stephen A. said that, he talked to a lot of black coaches, several black coaches who had a problem with LeBron James during the podcast with JJ Redick. During the time that Darvin Ham's job was in jeopardy, they felt like the timing was terrible, it was bad, and it was a bad look. They feel like it made Darvin Ham possibly look worse. Now, when I heard this, I'm going to be honest with y'all, because two things could be true. I felt like Stephen A. Smith was exaggerating. And I thought, I really didn't believe that all the way. I feel like Stephen A. Smith was talking to Darvin Ham directly, possibly, and Darvin probably feels like this. But I just don't feel like a slew of black coaches came and brought this to him. I don't, right? That's just me being honest. I don't believe that, right? And so we're going to get to Doug Gottlieb further, what he said about Stephen A. Smith, right? So Doug said, Stephen A. Smith is a race baiter. He is disgraceful, saying that on national TV. Disgraceful. JJ Redick and LeBron James are clearly friends. They have a relationship. They have mutual respect for one another. The only one who's making it out to be this racial thing is Stephen A. Smith. He is creating this. This is honestly pure evil. That's what bad people do. This is just as bad as the perception that President Trump stokes the white nationalist flame. Same thing. There's no difference. No difference. None. So two things could be true. I could disagree with Stephen A. Smith's, statement. I can believe that Stephen A. is not really telling the truth when he says that black coaches had a problem with LeBron James doing that podcast with JJ Redick during Darvin Ham's time he was on a hot seat. I don't really believe that like that. I think Stephen A. is like exaggerating, honestly, right? But I can also believe that Doug Gottlieb is a really, really clowned out individual. I'm going to say that. First of all, I'm automatically critical of people who use the term race baiter. Because usually people who say that word are individuals who don't want you to talk about the racism that they benefit from. A lot of people who use the term race baiter are racist themselves, and they hate all conversations about race because they don't want you to question the racism that they benefit from. They don't want to talk about racism because they feel like, hey, it's not a real problem in our country. And, black people are victims and shit like that. People who use the term race baiter are people who believe that black people are professional victims and, we make up oppression and, there is no police brutality. And, when we talk about police brutality, we're just being victims. Shit like that. So I'm already skeptical always of people who use the term race baiter, right? Now let's get to Mr. Doug Gottlieb. He talks about Stephen A. Smith. Now, look, Stephen A., I don't agree with a lot of things that Stephen A. says. I disagree with a lot that he says. I agree with a lot of things that he says, too, as well, right? I don't believe that Stephen A. Smith is a bad person at all. He's an outstanding journalist. Now, at times, he does a lot of things in broadcasting that's not good journalistic work. Sometimes I feel like listen, he knows journalism more than I know in my sleep. So I'm never going to question that. His credentials they're solidified. He was a beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer, worked his way all the way up to broadcast journalism on TV, and he's been carrying ESPN on his back for years, and he's paid handsomely and rightfully so because he brings the entertainment value to that network, even when I don't agree with the things that he says. I'm always going to acknowledge that brother works hard because you see him covering every single sport, right? So while me disagreeing with things that Stephen A. Smith says, I don't believe all this statement about all the black coaches coming to him. Doug Gottlieb, man, him calling Stephen A. Smith a bad person, this is honestly pure evil. That's what bad people do. Well, Doug, bad people also steal people's credit cards while they're in college. For those who don't know, Doug Gottlieb stole credit cards from people while he was in college, right? And he always tries to come across like he's this barometer for morality when that's not the case. Doug, you were allegedly a card cracking scammer. What makes you better than other people? And you see this, right? And this whole thing about him defending JJ Redick and LeBron James' relationship, I'm a LeBron James fan. I'm not going to be like, yes, he's taking up for LeBron. No, because Doug Gottlieb does not give a fuck about LeBron James. He doesn't like LeBron James. If LeBron James would put up a caption of him and Savannah James with put up a picture of him and Savannah James, his wife, on Instagram, and he captions it "Black Love," Doug Gottlieb would have a problem with that, and he would call LeBron James the biggest racist around. He's that type of individual. He doesn't like any athlete. If LeBron James talk about anything with the black community and police brutality, Doug Gottlieb is the type of person that would question it, that would provide a lot of pushback on it, that would not like LeBron James making statements about black people and oppression that we face in this country. He would downplay oppression. He's the type of white man who act like it doesn't, who would act like, you know, a lot of the systemic racism that we talk about does not exist. He will act like the systemic racism is a figment of our imagination. That's why I don't fuck with this shit that he's saying, because I know he's not doing this to take up for LeBron James and because, oh my God, I'm really trying to make this world a better place. Doug Gottlieb is taking his time. He's taking a chance to use this. He's taking this opportunity to drag Stephen A. Smith through the mud for bringing up race in conversations because he doesn't like it and it makes him cringe when people talk about race. Let's get to who Doug Gottlieb really is. He's a man who dog whistles a lot. Doug Gottlieb comes across like a man who has a lot of racist ideologies and tendencies, but he's afraid to stand on it. He's afraid to stand in it, right? So instead, Doug Gottlieb dog whistles, and he dog whistles by making statements and pushing narratives that have racial undertones to them. A lot of times they have racial overtones to them, right? Doug Gottlieb to me is a tool for anti-black conservatives, and he uses sports as a way to talk about race and right-wing politics. Again, Doug Gottlieb is a tool for anti-black conservatives, and he uses sports as a way to talk about race and right-wing politics the same way, the other dude, Will Cain, the same way Will Cain did, okay? This whole statement of calling Stephen A. Smith a race baiter is Doug Gottlieb's attempt to sneak his way onto that Outkick platform with Jason Whitlock's butter biscuit shucking and jiving black behind, okay? Sambo #1, Jason Whitlock. Okay, so let's break this down too, man, because again, Doug Gottlieb, every time it's a situation with black folks and race, he's always on the opposite side of this. He's always, looking for anything not to be racist in any way, even when it's obviously racist, the same way Jason Whitlock does. And again, he's afraid to really stand on a lot of these racist ideologies that I believe he has within him. So he hides behind it and tries to use other ways for it to rear its ugly head. And you see it a lot when you listen to him on his radio show, because I listen to The Odd Couple with Chris Broussard and Rob, what's Rob's name, man? Rob Parker. On that channel that The Odd Couple is on, Doug Gottlieb's radio show is on that channel as well. And again, Doug just strikes me as a disingenuous individual. He's very smuck, very snarky, can come across as very condescending. Doug will make you want to choke him. For real. Doug Gottlieb is the head coach for the University of Wisconsin Green Bay Phoenix. The University of Wisconsin Green Bay men's basketball program is a program that one of my best friends helped to uphold and hold in high regard. One of my best friends' name is Kiefer Sykes. At the time, my boy Kiefer was one of the top point guards in the country. Yes, he played at a mid-major, but he was at Chris Paul camps. He was averaging 20 a game, back-to-back Horizon League Player of the Year, was having outstanding games against top teams, whether it was the University of Miami. They beat Miami. They beat Virginia. At the time, Virginia was a nice ranked team. They beat Marquette. They lost to University of Wisconsin in his junior year by 3 points. He nearly beat Sam Decker. And what's the other guy name that was on the team? Sam Decker, Frank Kaminsky, and those individuals, right? So I've been watching the moves that Doug Gottlieb has made, and I've been watching the moves that the University of Wisconsin Green Bay has made. Even when they hired him, I saw it immediately because I'm still following those pages on social media, because I was following those pages when my dog Kiefer Sykes was at the helm for that program. But yeah, man, Doug is a person who, again, is very smug, and he has a lot of anti-black ideologies within him. He's just afraid to stand on it. So when he called in Stephen A. Smith a bad person and purely evil, I'm looking at him like, dog, what? It just comes off like it's bullshit, man, because I know, like, it's not because he genuinely cares about, you know, LeBron James being looked at as a bad guy or his image being tainted. This is his way for him to kind of to take his right-wing politics into sports conversations. That's why he brought this whole thing up. You know, and again, I don't believe black coaches was calling Stephen A. Smith in droves about LeBron James doing his podcast. I believe he was talking directly to Darvin Ham, and he just said, I talked to a lot of black coaches, you know, so he can cover the sources of who the coaches are. And I'm looking like, man, a lot of these coaches need to start standing on stuff if they saying that. But I believe he was talking directly to Darvin Ham, and he just used the all black coaches. A lot of black coaches said it as a way to exaggerate the story and make it more sexy. But I doubt that, right? But even with all of that and me disagreeing with what Stephen A. Smith has said at times and disagreeing with that statement or whatever, I recognize what Doug Gottlieb is doing. He's not doing this to cover LeBron James and make him just make LeBron and JJ's relationship just seem very genuine. I do believe they have a genuine relationship, JJ Redick and LeBron James. But Doug don't care about that. He couldn't wait to call another black man a race baiter and to bring his right-wing politics into sports talk. He couldn't wait to dog whistle at another black man. He couldn't wait, in my opinion, I feel like this, right? He couldn't wait to say, to deliver these type of ideologies or send those shots at Stephen A. Smith, because he is another white guy who doesn't like race. Oh my God, race talk. No. I know what you're doing, Doug.